Hello.
Hiya.
Hiya. We are collectively Brass Jaw. We are a jazz group, jazz quartet. I play trumpet, and these guys play the different saxophones.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. I play alto saxophone.
I play tenor saxophone.
I play trumpet saxophone.
And I play baritone trumpet. My name's Paul Townsrow.
My name is Conor Wisniewski.
Ryan Quigley is my name.
And I'm Alan Bothwhistle.
Okay. Collectively, we are Brass Jaw.
I said that.
Okay.
Okay, we formed in 2005 as a saxophone quartet. Then 5 years ago we saw the error of our ways and decided to get Ryan in to make it a unique ensemble as far as we can find out. So we've now been in this format for 5 years.
We've had various conversations about the name Brass Jaw. It seems to come up quite frequently in interviews, and yeah, we've sort of taken it to mean it's sort of symbolic of strength, physical strength. Sometimes you'll hear a boxer being referred to as having a glass jaw, which means they're easy to knock down. Brass jaw, I think, for us is kind of the opposite of that. It means that we keep getting hit in the face, but we still keep going, and that's kind of it's a little bit of an in joke in that sense for the band. You know, we kind of resilience and stick with itness is kind of an important thing, isn't it?
And that applies to many facets of like driving to Leicester and doing a gig and driving straight back to Glasgow. You know, but we enjoy it.
Incredible.
It's different, unique.
I think because it's not just saxophone quartet, because I guess a saxophone quartet runs the risk of sometimes sounding a bit samey and a wee bit homogenous if you go and listen to a whole gig. So with this lineup, you know, because I'm playing trumpet, I can sometimes, you know, blend in the harmony. And maybe Paul will play the lead line or Conrad will play the lead line, so it could sound quite like a saxophone quartet. But then if you want a little bit of an extra edge on it, I'll maybe play the lead line and it'll sound almost big bandy, so it can sound a bit like a horn section, it can sound a bit like a big band, it can sound a bit like a kind of classic, you know, sextet almost, because Alon's obviously doing the kind of rhythm section thing, and we can be the kind of three horn, you know, thing on top of the rhythm section. So there's many kind of colours to our sound, I think, which makes it very interesting to write for, and hopefully it makes it really interesting for people to listen to.
Well, I started on piano to start with because it was the only thing I could lay my hands on at such a young age. But what actually got me into saxophone was my primary school headmaster came in one day and just did a wee workshop with him playing the saxophone, and no one in the school knew he played it until that day. And from that point on, apparently I came home and was like, I'm going to be a musician. And my poor folks were like, really? But that's where it came from for myself. How about you?
Me? Well, I kind of grew up in a kind of musical house. My dad's a trumpet player, so I always kind of had music going on. And he never kind of said, I think you should play trumpet. I just kind of you know, saw it lying around all the time and kind of was listening to all this great music. And you know, there was always like Miles Davis and Clifford Brown and, you know, Ella Fitzgerald records and Stevie Wonder records and, you know, all sorts of amazing music on all the time. So I was always very interested in music. I used to sing. I've been told I used to sing constantly when I was like very, very young. And when I was maybe about 11, I kind of thought I want to try the trumpet, so my dad gave me a spare trumpet, and now I'm doing what I do. So yeah, it was about 11 when I started.
We all kind of met at the same time. We were about 14, 15 years old, which was, for me, it was a kind of turning point, because I'd always played music in the house, but when we got together and we started playing jazz, I was like, oh, this is actually really good fun. And it wasn't just, it was the kind of interaction with other people. You know, you're kind of same age. It was really, really good fun, and it kind of made me want to pursue that, and here we are today.
Well, something that's quite important about jazz is that it's historically a very, very social art form. A lot of people look at the lineup that we have as being quite unusual because it's based on wind instruments. But the thing that we always try and point out is that actually that's how it began. in New Orleans, jazz began with discarded instruments that were left over after the Civil War, and most of them were brass instruments and woodwind instruments. So some of our kind of aesthetic sort of reflects that a little bit. So it's actually quite an interesting thing. It's quite a strong identifying feature of jazz that is a very, very social thing as well. Well, for us collectively, and I think individually as well, education or learning work or working within the community is very much part of what we do as an artistic process. I think we've actually come to see that as something that's not really even separate from the process of writing music, of arranging music, and then of performing music and practicing our instrument. That all goes hand in hand with how we communicate the music to other people. And sometimes that is by playing a gig to an audience, sometimes it's by releasing an album, and sometimes it's by going into a school and doing a workshop for children who have never seen or heard a saxophone or a trumpet in their life. And that's something that's very, very exciting. All of that represents creativity, and it represents communicating music and why music's important. And that's something that is really close to all of our hearts, I think, and it's not really a separate thing. It's all part of the same overall creative process.
I guess Alon kind of initially kind of pushed for all the gigs, because these two actually, you went to Paul and said you were wanting to start up a saxophone quartet.
Yeah, because Paul had been touring for this quartet, so I was kind of asking for a bit of advice of, what's the best way to go. So originally it was a lot of phone calls. Because Paul said, I phone this guy, phone that, and it would lead off into other places. But most of the conversations were, son, you haven't got a rhythm section, how's that going to work? So you'd be there on the phone for a good half hour to an hour before they gave up and gave you a gig. It was fine, but there was a lot of lovely people out there, so that they helped us along at the start.
It was very. I think it was very interesting when we actually, I think we kind of confirmed a very, very strong identity. That as soon as you do that, and as soon as you start becoming faithful to that identity and that kind of driving kind of mission, and that what your music is about and what the band is about, then other people start to respond to that, including people who might be interested in booking you for gigs, and audiences, and people who might come along and hear you or follow you on Twitter or Facebook or watch videos on YouTube. It's about engaging the audience with something that's a strong, tangible concept.
I mean, it's really interesting for me, just when you asked that question. I remember when this group was set up. So I remember Paul talking to me about it, and I remember you talking to me about it. Because Alan used to play in another quartet called the Hung Drawn Quartet, which it went for a long time, didn't it?
Yeah, 10 years.
And it was quite well known in the kind of Glasgow Scottish music scene. And then, for whatever reason, that kind of discontinued, and then there was this other quartet getting sent out, and I was quite excited about it because there was Paul, and there was a guy called Martin Kershaw, and a guy called Brian Molly, and Alon. And I thought, wow, that sounds great. These guys are all great players. I can't wait to hear what that's going to sound like. And I always kind of slagged them off because they called it brass jaw and there was no brass instruments in it. And somehow now I'm in the band. So it's been a kind of interesting process for me to watch from the start, because I wasn't involved in it from the start, neither were you. And then you were in the band, and then now I'm in the band, so it's who's going to get fired next, both? No, but I mean, it's an interesting. It's really interesting for to come into it when I come into it. So because I remember when you were kind of setting up all the gigs and you were giving contacts to him, and the band was first starting and all that, and it's been an amazing. It's been a kind of amazing success story, even before I joined the band. It was a kind of beautiful thing for Glasgow to have, this kind of really successful, unusual kind of lineup of a group. Because there's not a lot of saxophone quartets either really doing jazz stuff. I mean, there was the 29th Street
Yeah.
29th
Quartet,
Street, Itchy Fingers.
Itchy Fingers, but I can't really think of any other
Not really.
groups that did it. So this is another kind of, and it's even more unique now that it's not a saxophone quartet anymore. It's something slightly different. So
I mean, one of the things at the start actually that kind of helped was we actually, instead of aiming to do lots of small gigs in and round about, we just aimed for one really big tour. So it was about 25 dates just straight off the bat over 2 months, I think it was, all the way from like Shetland, no, not Shetland, Orkney, all the way down to south of England, kind of thing. And that basically really helped just straight off, because like Paul was
and that
talking
was
about.
before you had a CD.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, so that idea was to, like Paul was talking about, giving it an identity straight off the bat. You know, and that's what's helped a long way.
Hopefully by then we'll have a few more records out. We'll have just kept doing what we're doing. We'll keep doing the education stuff. We'll keep doing gigs. We'll keep trying to tour all over the world. You know, we've been lucky. We've been to Europe. We've been to, you know, all over the UK. So hopefully we'll just keep building on the success that we've already got. We'll keep releasing records and just keep going. Paul talks about this a lot. Just about keeping going. Just keep going, because there's so many bands that they start and then they have this big success and then suddenly it all implodes and they split up and the band breaks up and then it's gone. So we're certainly hoping to just stay together as long as we're alive, hopefully, and just keep going.
We're quite lucky in that we don't have a huge infrastructure around us, sort of telling us what to do or kind of pushing us in a certain direction. We've got lots of great people with whom we work and engage with, but as far as the band goes, we're very self-contained. So I think we're only reliant on each other.
Right. So you have no agents then? Is it just you?
We just kind of take care of things. So that kind of it makes for a lot of hard work for us, and we have to work hard. But the good thing is that it means we're not reliant on that infrastructure, which sometimes can get in the way. And we've been kind of lucky in that respect. We've managed to maintain that and keep the momentum going forward. And that I think that's something that that can potentially help an independent band to progress.
And I think we're just lucky as well to have a musical relationship that we've had for the last 10 years, and to be able to
your
continue
friends.
that. Yeah, and the friends, and also through music, that's how you really, it becomes tight and how you bond as well. You know, if you're playing together all the time, constantly, you really start to know each other's playing, and I've found that, certainly myself, we all kind of develop together as well. You know, so we're kind of pushing each other on. You know, it's always kind of striving. You know, it's never kind of stagnating, which is really a good thing.
I mean, we'll obviously have, in 5 years, I would imagine we'll have a Grammy, a Mobo,
probably a musical,
probably
a musical,
probably an Oscar,
Probably at least
for
one
the soundtrack, and probably a couple of number ones.
I think
as well.
a Nobel Peace Prize. That's on the cards.
I'd
for
say
Alan.
I'm aiming for within 10 years for the Nobel thing. But you never know, you know.
In science or in humanities, or I don't know. I'm not sure which one to aim for.
Science, probably.
I think science.
Well, we're obviously aiming for a Golden Globe, Grammy, Mobo, Oscar. Upcoming
Nobel
projects.
Peace Prize.
I mean, we've all got kind of individual projects as well as this, obviously. You've got some exciting stuff coming up next year.
I've got some exciting stuff. Obviously, yes, as Ryan says, we're going to be doing lots with Brassjaw next year. We were lucky enough to be commissioned by London Jazz Festival to write a new suite of music, so we hope to release that in some sort of physical or downloadable digital format within the next few months. We've got a whole load of gigs lined up for next year. Individually, we're all involved in different projects as well, involving writing commissions and quartets, trios, big bands. So yeah, 2014 looks as if it's going to be a very busy year for us. So looking forward to the hard work and the good fun times. Hi,
we're
Brass Jaw, and you're watching Leicester Jazz House TV.